Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. This is your presenter, Dr. Mamdouh Mohamed. I am completing the series of episodes about our children at school. In the previous episode, I covered brief comparison between the software and the textbook that are used in schools. And I covered almost 7 items or pieces of comparison, and you can see them in front of you on the screen right now. Now I'm going to add more points of comparison so that you would have an overall idea between the value, the real value of a software and the real value of a textbook, and whether we need to depend heavily on textbooks, whether it's a time to change from textbooks to software. It's a question that I think the leadership of schools and the people who are the VIPs in the ministries of education all over the world and the teachers themselves would be able to decide after the end of the comparison. Here are the 7 points that I mentioned in the previous episode. Have a look at them, and I will continue by adding these 7 other points of comparison, and you can see them: the text, the errors, the interest, the easiness, and the volume, and the skills, and the cost. I will explain them to you in details. First, in terms of the text, the script, the passages. When you compare the series of books with a software, you will find that the texts or the passages that are available in any books are just silent texts. They don't speak. They are not human beings. There is no vividness or no life in them. You need to make them alive by having a model of reading, which requires absolutely a teacher, and which is something that each student in the far distant places may not have access to a teacher, may not have access to schools. So in order to make these texts alive, in order to make them live and vivid, you need a teacher, or at least you need some recording of any type, something that's usually, this is not the case with every book. Whereas on the software, you'll find text is a moving, is live, is very entertaining because you have the sounds and even the visuals that are necessary to make the text live. This is another feature of comparison that adds to the advantages of using a software. Also another aspect of comparison is comparing the errors. If you are using a book and we make mistakes, usually the mistakes are there, but you would never be able to know that your mistakes except by yourself, or except if a teacher is there and he sees the errors and he tracks the errors. And this is usually rare nowadays. Where you compare it with the software, you would find that there's tracking of the errors. It tracks the error of the student. I would tell you that, for example, you made a mistake out of 10 questions, you made a mistake in 9 questions out of 10 questions in differentiating between the masculine and the feminine. And not only that, it makes analysis for that. For example, by the end of the chapter, it can give you a chart telling you that your weakness in this chapter is 90% in knowing the feminine, in differentiating between the feminine and the masculine, probably 30% in making the plural, 40% in such a thing and such. It gives you good analysis so that you can know your own weaknesses and where to put your time on and where to direct your focus It's a very effective tool if it is well designed. But this is one feature of the software. It really encourages people to see the effectiveness of the use of software or computer programs. Another feature or a point of comparison is the interest. When you deal with any book of languages, yes, there's a level of course, attraction in it because of the number of the pictures that are there, but it is not as attractive as or as interesting as a software where you can see vivid situations, vivid daily life situations. Where you can see a group of pictures or a group of some shootings, video shootings in North America or in Africa or in India or Pakistan that makes the learning situation as if it is a real situation in front of you. Yes, it is sometimes real situations. What is missing is that you are not there. However, there's still an opportunity for you to play the role of any one of the actors or any one of the players or the characters that are in front of you so that it becomes really close to real life situations. This is not an easy thing at all. Why is this? Because, yes, as perhaps I will talk later, because of the concept of immersion. You get a child, you get a person, you get a learner, and put him in a real life situation, definitely he will acquire the language quicker than the student who is studying from a textbook, who is studying in a formal situation in a classroom or in a school or in a college. This is not a real life practice of a language in comparison with the first case of acquisition where a person is fully immersed in that. This is another feature that you will find that the software will produce to you at least semi-real life situations or close to real life situations that you can envision by yourself, and you can do the role playing that makes very effective learning of the language. Another quality is the easiness, or how easy to use a book by yourself and how easy to use or a software by yourself. How friendly the book is and how friendly the software is. From the first moment, you see that the software is very friendly for a user. That means you can use it very easily. It has a lot of entertainment. You hear sounds, you see pictures, you get feedback. So it really makes you feel live. Whereas in terms of a book, usually it's a little bit dull and a little bit boring because it doesn't have this level of interactivity between you and between the textbook. The interactivity is from one part only, which is you. And usually to add more liveliness to a book or a textbook, you need a teacher to make it live. With good, effective teachers, definitely it will become like a book, will become like real life, but not the textbook by itself. It all the time requires a teacher. Even if you have a teacher, still it's not as live as the software, because in a software you can see 5 people are playing different roles in front of you, whereas the teacher himself can play only one role. He can represent a father, or he can represent the role of a mother or a son or a daughter, but he cannot play all the roles. And even if he can, you would find that it is not real life. He has to change his tones to represent a female and to represent a male and to present a young person and an old person, which is not some qualities that are available in every teacher. Many teachers may lack this, whereas the software would provide you with a real life situation that you can learn from it.
Oh, people of the world.
A servant is not afflicted with any punishment greater than having a stiff heart and being away from the Almighty, the Compassionate. Hearts are God's vessels on the earth. The most beloved ones to Him are the softest and the most purest. If hearts are nourished with God's remembrance and quenched with His meditation, it will witness great wonders and deep wisdom. Since our hearts are enlaced with layers of oblivion, we need to cleanse them to stand sound and pure before Allah. To know more, join us on Peace TV's new series on healing hearts, where we can join together the caravan of the sincere servants of Allah.
Let's try and purify our hearts from all destructive sins to taste true success in Healing Hearts. Every Thursday at 6 p.m. and repeat telecast at 5:30 a.m. India on Peace TV.
Every action depends upon its intention.
Intention sincere.
What is your intention? Why do you do what you do?
Concentration, focus, dedication, dynamic.
Every single aspect of your mind, of your soul, of your heart, is it for Allah, sincerely for Him? Or is it for something else?
Get going on how to improve your prayers.
The purpose of these talks is to counter exactly that type of behavior.
Join Abdul Rahim Green.
In other words, with the outward action, there is also an inner dimension.
In Inner Dimensions of Worship, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. and repeat telecast at 8:30 a.m. India on Peace TV.
Another aspect is the size of the book. Textbooks usually are bulky. Textbooks usually are heavy to carry. Textbooks are so bulky that even some series of books, I'm talking about Arabic, teaching Arabic, in some universities we have found 4 volumes that are so bulky. In some other textbooks we find 6 or 7. Some series of books reach the level of almost close to 40 volumes or 40 books to learn the language. And you can imagine when I say the size of 40 volumes, it's almost like this if you put all the volumes beside each other. In one of the cases that I think was in front of me, a person was given these books as a gift. He said, I am sorry, I cannot take them. If I put them in an airplane, I take them with me in my travel, I will pay huge amount of money. Whereas if I take a software, it's easy to carry. I wouldn't pay anything. He said that even if you give this to me as free package, it becomes very costly to take it with me to Zimbabwe, and he was traveling to that country. And this makes sense. Just the cost of the book is very expensive. Even if you get it for free, you need to pay something like around $100 just to transfer it from one place into another. Or if you buy it and you pay $200 the cost of it. You add another 100 or 200, which makes it very costly in comparison with the small size, light software. Again, this is one of the important factors in the economics of production and even economics of the way that we think as developers, as people who are responsible for the curriculum, as teachers. We need to consider all these aspects because all these aspects are aspects of effectiveness which are necessary for the development of some programs to enrich the teaching of Arabic language. If we come to another feature which is very essential, the feature of skills. No matter how the book is well designed, you will definitely find that there is not balance. There is no balance between all the four skills that we mentioned before. The listening skill, the speaking skill, the reading skill, and the writing skill. Most of the books would help students in the reading skill and in the writing skill, whereas in the listening and the speaking skill, unless there are some audio tapes, unless there is a software, unless there's a teacher with the students inside the classroom, they would not achieve or they would not have an opportunity to practice the skill of listening and to practice the skill of speaking. In other words, you can say that textbooks lack the ability of balancing unless they are provided with extra tools that are needed or with a teacher. They are not self-instructional unless they have these features. Whereas if you compare this with the software, and now with the advancement of technology, you would find that good softwares that teach a language can provide you with all the skills, listening skill, the reading skill, the speaking skill, and the writing skill, in addition to the other features that we have mentioned earlier, which is in itself tells us it is time to take a quick decision and to shift or direct most of our efforts to this area because it is more effective than the use of mere textbooks. It is a very effective learning tool for any teacher or for any student who's studying by himself or herself to use this feature to enrich his skills in order to be able to speak the language and communicate in the language, the target language, in a very short time. One other feature which probably I have touched in the beginning of the first episode, it talks about the cost. Here, I'm talking about the cost of reproduction. For any software to reproduce, it may cost you fractions of the cost of producing a textbook or series of textbooks. And everybody in the world knows that money is important. And you can save a lot of money by producing copies and copies from the software. And this is not the situation when you think of producing a series of textbooks. I hope by now teachers and curriculum developers and parents, add to them the leadership at any school, add to them the officials, the high officials in ministries of education, add to them the students who can express their needs and say it openly that we need to direct ourselves and to use and to benefit from the advantages of the advancement in technology by having some software, some educational programs, especially in the area of teaching Arabic to the non-Arabs, to the non-Arabic speaking learners as well as to the native speakers. It is a very effective, inexpensive tool of teaching and learning. And I hope at that time the parents would have a say in a school when they participate in the PTA. They would have a say now because they are well aware of the effectiveness and the advantages of the use of technology in the learning process of a language in particular and in the learning process of other subjects in general. Now they can have a say, especially in private schools, where the leadership of that school or this school has the flexibility of using the budget or using the financial resources that are available there in order to improve the quality of learning a language. I'm quite sure that having this in mind would affect us as parents and would lead us to participate and to be involved as real partner in the school, in the direction of the school. So we need to consider this, think deeply of it, even if we are as teachers as well. Now, after knowing all these advantages of using software or computer programs and that they are excel, of course, the use of just mere textbooks, we as teachers, we need to explore what is available in the market. And the internet makes the whole world open in front of us to look and see the programs that are available. Even as a teacher, you can use some of the budget that is given to your department and section to buy some software to enrich or to enhance the learning of the students. I think it's a good way for teachers to think, to explore what is available in the internet and to see how effective these software are in order to enrich the learning in the classroom. This could be one of the main tasks of at least the head teacher in the subject of Arabic, or the head teacher in general who is responsible in the school for all the curriculum, but it is also the task and the responsibility and the duty of each individual teacher, because they have the expertise and they can distinguish and they can say that this software is better than this software, or this software can enrich the textbook that I am using, or this software is at the level of the learning of the students in my classroom. But this requires some research to be done on the internet. Attending conferences, attending book fairs and software fairs would open up the area for all of us to benefit from what is available in the market. This is my tip to the teachers and my tip to the parents. It's time to make a shift and to make effect in the learning of our children. It's no longer that it's only our children who can make this change, but by our participation, especially now when we got all this knowledge and information about the benefits of using software to enrich the learning of a language, especially when we know how dear this language, the language of the Holy Quran, to us, and how vital it is in understanding the Holy Quran, the book that all of us nourish on it. We Muslims cannot live without the Quran. And we cannot benefit from the Quran unless we understand this. And understanding the Quran is the learning process of learning the language of the Quran. You can see how vital this comparison is and how important it is to share it with others in the school, to share it with the teachers, to share it with the head of the department, to share it with the leader of the school, to share it with the curriculum developer in order to take short time to make the necessary changes and to guarantee and to ensure that our beloved children get what they deserve to get from these schools. Again, I remind you to contact me to get more elaboration and more explanations if you need more and more by contacting me via the email, which is Mamdouh, MAMDOUH 2000s @hotmail.com. And I hope and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us to spend our time or the rest of our time to benefit ourselves from the language of the Quran and to benefit others by making it easy and interesting for the learners of this great language. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Mamdouh Mohamed.
Oh, people of the world, can we spend